Hello there. Next, we have this poem, Home, a poem by Warsan Shire. So, this is a poem about migration and the traumas and complexities that define on migration. And it explores the forces that drive people, so the pitiable condition that make people to leave their home, and the forces that are often deeply misconstrued and misunderstood. So this poem, Home, also explores the pain, that defines many migrant experiences. It also explores the ways that migrants are received in the countries in which they are seeking refuge. So this is this poem written by Warsan Share. She was born in Kenya to Somali parents, and at the age of 1, she migrated to London. She is a poet, a writer, editor, and a teacher. And in the year 2013 to 14, she was the young poet laureate for London. And there is a lot many famous work that she has written. She wrote conversations about home at a deportation center in 2009, and that kind of an visit that she made to the abandoned Somali embassy in Rome, which some young refugees had turned into the homes. So we know from the newspapers and stories of today's media how people, they are forced to leave the home, and the crisis which is known as a refugee crisis. And she when she has encountered the particular thing, and she gave an interview, and she told the reporter that the night before she visited, a young Somali had jumped to his death off the roof. So they are dying for that. And that is the thing that opened her eyes to the harsh reality of living as an undocumented refugee in Europe. And she wrote poem for them, for her family, and for anyone who has experienced lived around grief and trauma in that way. And so that particular poem became the basis for Home. And so this poem, Home, has been shared widely across the media and has been read in a range of public spaces. And so this particular poem has touched a nerve among people, that it has offered a way to give voice to refugees and to provide some authentic understanding of the crisis of the refugee crisis. So this is an unmediated look into the lives and struggles of people seeking asylum means a shelter. And as they flee from the war-stricken countries they call home. Okay, this particular lady, Shah, a Somalian born, London based, she was inspired by a visit she made to the now abandoned Somali embassy in Rome. And so this is how she has gave voice to people whose voices have been silenced as they deal with the constant struggle of life as a refugee. And she wanted to explore the harsh reality of living of life of the refugees as an undocumented refugee, and she is also living a life like that. So she is a person, she is a multi-talented Somali British writer and teacher, and as we have said earlier, she was born in Kenya but immigrated to the UK at the age of 1. And there is a lot many accolades she has received. She was the young poet laureate of London, and she has also received the African poetry praise. And she was actually born for Kenyan parents in Somalia, and but she grew up in London, and so there she felt like a kind of identity crisis, because she is not there in the London mainstream. She always lives like an outsider in London, and embodies a kind of shape fitting culture juggling spirit lurking most people who can't trace their ancestors to the country's founding fathers. So because she doesn't feel a kind of attachment to the city she born and brought up, and she conjures up a new language for belonging and displacement. And so she is a person, her poetry, so this is a particular example of her poem, which is evokes a longing for home. So we know that we have that kind of a feeling towards our home. So home is a place to call home. It's often a nostalgia. We always feel a nostalgic element when we think about home, and that she has written down, jotting down her memories with the home. But for those who have parents, grandparents, uncles, and aunts, people who forged her idea of her ancestral homeland through their own stories. And she is a person, she also says, she is most interested in writing about people whose stories are either not told. Okay, she wanted to explore the undocumented life of people. And so that are told inaccurately. She wanted to give a life narration of people they are suffering, especially she wanted to give people an understanding of how this section of people, immigrants and refugees, are suffering. So she brings out her dictaphone, her language, when relatives comes to her with tales from their experiences, so that she can record them faithfully before turning them into poetry. So that is this poem home, which is it is starting like, no one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. So that is a very kind of a line that she is giving us. So this poem that begins with the speaker asserting that no one wants to leave home unless home has become too dangerous of a place to continue living in. So no one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well. Your neighbors running faster than you, breath bloody in their throats. The boy you went to school with, who kissed you dizzy behind the old tin factory, is holding a gun bigger than his body. You only leave home when home won't let you stay. That is the state. So home, you won't leave home unless home has become too dangerous of a place to continue living in. So as she goes on describe the wide variety of dangers associated with being a refugee, focusing as much on the risk of fleeing as the risk of remaining. Okay, and she also says, you have to understand that no one puts the children in boat unless the water is safer than the land. No one burns their palms under trains beneath carriages. No one spends days and nights in the stomach of a truck feeding on newspaper unless the miles traveled mean something more than a journey. No one crawls under fences. No one wants to be beaten, pitied. No one chooses refugee camp or stripe searches where your body is left aching, or prison, because prison is safer than a city of fire, and one prison guard in the night is better than a truckload of men who look like your father No one could take it, no one could stomach it, no one skin would be tough enough. So this is something that she give us, what all the sufferings, the variety of dangers associated with being a refugee. So the risk of fleeing and the risk of remaining to their home, and such risk include being taken advantage of a treacherous means of travel and xenophobic attitude towards immigrants because nobody is accepting them. So all throughout, the speaker personifies the abstract concept of home in order to emphasize the fact that people still feel an undeniable connection to their homes, even when their homes threaten their livelihoods. So all this, the first four stanzas, the speaker details how no one would leave home unless home was violently driving not only them but everyone. So, by becoming an environment in which staying would mean losing one's life, it is unless and until staying at our own place which is a dangerous. So if we stay somewhere, if it is losing our life, we would leave that place. But it's until then we love to be stay back at our home place. So in the fifth stanza, so this is the things that she is depicting the first four stanzas of the poem. So how no one would leave home unless home was violently driving not only them but everyone out. By becoming an environment in which staying would mean losing one's life. So in the stanza 5, the speaker begins to address us. She begins to address the reader, urging them to believe and understand that no one would flee their home and put themselves as well as their family into the dangerous and humiliating situation of becoming a refugee unless the alternative was worse for. Okay, the go home blacks, refugees, dirty immigrants, asylum seekers, sucking our country dry, niggers with their hands out, the smell strain savage messed up the country, now they want to mess us up. How do the words, the dirty looks roll off your backs? Maybe because the blow is softer than a limp torn off. So, or the words are more tender than 14 men between your legs, or the insults are easier to swallow than rubble than bone than your child body in pieces. So this is giving us a shock in which the children also suffers from how they are brutally raped by people. So at some places, these people, they want to go home, but home is the mouth of a shark for them. Home is the barrel of the gun for them, and no one would leave home unless home chased you to the shore, unless home told you to kick on your legs, leave your clothes behind. So they left behind everything they have had all these years. So leave your clothes behind, scroll through the desert, wade through the oceans. We know the Alan Kurdi, you might have witnessed that particular media shoot in which a small boy of 2 year, Alan Kurdi, that washed ashore with the shipwreck. Okay, drown safe, be hunger, beg, forget pride, your survival is more important. Okay, so they are ready to be get hungry, they are ready to beg people, and they are ready to forget their pride because what they believe is survival is more important. No one leaves home until home is a sweaty voice in your ear saying, leave, run away from me now. I don't know what I have become, but I know that anywhere is safer than here. So anywhere is safer than the place they are already with. So the speaker then goes on to describe the cruel and harrowing experience of escaping and traveling to a seemingly safer place, only to be welcomed with hatred, bigotry, ignorance about horrors that she has experienced. Okay, in the last stanza and the ninth stanza, speaker begins to look into the future, stating that only a wish to survive driving her onwards. What it is her wish to survive is driving her onwards. In the last two stanzas, we have seen the speaker repeats the sentiment that no one would leave their home unless home itself drove them away, hopeless about what it has become, urging them away to serve them. So this is actually is a poem about migration and the traumas and complexities that define migration. So it explores the focuses that drive people to leave their home, forces that are often deeply misconstrued and misunderstood. Okay, so there are loads many misunderstanding about the refugee crisis. We won't allow people to enter into our territory. So the pain that defines many migrant experience. It also explores the ways that migrants are received in the countries in which they are seeking a refuge. So we know that there are countries they are making laws to not to enter this kind of a people to the homeland. So this is the pitiable condition in which the refugees are living. So it also alludes to the sexual violence. So we have seen in the particular lines in which Warsan Shire giving us an idea on how they are sexually violated by people that some refugees face on their journeys. It is important that we need to emotionally respond reading while we read this poem home. So this is a teardrop will surely will come around in our eyes when we read it with our heart actually. And so it explores the ways that migrants are received in countries in which they are seeking a refuge. So okay, here she is a person. She is describing lot many things like how a home became a dangerous and humiliating situation of becoming a refugee unless the alternative was far worse. Okay, so we have also seen the first stanzas, Warsan Shire exploring the details and violence and trauma that often lead migrants to leave their home. And also in the fifth stanza, a speaker begins to address the reader, urging them to understand that no one would flee their home and put themselves as their family want to be dangerous. Into dangerous and humiliating situation of becoming a refugee unless the alternative was far worse. It's far worse. And a speaker that goes on to describe the cruel and harrowing experience of escaping and traveling to a seemingly safer place only to be welcomed with hatred. So nobody accepts them with open hands. So there will be violence for them, there will ignorance about them, they are suffering a brutal unflinching vignettes that describe the horrors of bigotry, but that also explains that going home is impossible for them. They are ready to suffer anything for the sake of life, for the sake of survival. The narrative begins to outline the complexity, the darkness that shapes many migrant experiences, leaving them without any safe place to call home. So, the last stanza, the speaker begins to look to the future, stating that only her wish to survive is driving her onwards. And the last two stanzas, the speaker repeats the sentiment that no one would leave their home unless home itself draw them away. So we know that this poem is written by the Somalian poet Warsan Shire. So, she also points out the various motivations that fuel the need of for people to flee and brings us the understanding a larger themes in the discussion surrounding refugee crisis around the world. So that is a kind of thing that very pertinent with the global north. So she has evokes a lot many imageries which brings to the light the risk associated with the journey. An asylum means shelter seeker. So there is a particular state words like leave, stay. So that is the two particular words here, leave and stay. So that creates a binary. So like binary is a night day, so like binary is something leave and stay. So we it makes us think of the fate of refugees and asylum seekers, while it capitalizes on the uncertainty of the journey, and they do not know that where they are going to. It brings out responses from the host countries. So they are just want the kindness of the host countries. They are seeking asylum, and that is something that want them to re-establish a distance. Okay, and that is the condition. So it is emotionally filled poem, and the centrality of emotion is there is emotion, there is pain, there is trauma, and bodily suffering. Oh, everything is there in that poem context. So there exists an imperative need to analyze a policy that who aren't given a space to be heard. These are the people. Their voices unvoiced. We never heard their voice. So there exists a need to humanize. There is a humanitarian view. We must have a humanitarian view on this particular category of people. And so there is no lot many policies on politicize the liminal existence of a refugee. There are misunderstanding about these people. So this is primary as a discussion, and we categorizing this distinction that treat boldly individuality. So this is something that makes us as an individual think upon ponder on. So we have our individuality, and we have our privileges, we have our home, we have our nation, but there are a number of people they don't have any rights to exist. So we just need to have an understanding on these particular section of people. So it is something that open our eyes when the poem ends with a particular statement like forget pride, your survival is more important. The exclusion, they are not included in our life, they are excluded from our life. The grief they are stricken with, the lack of shared norms of humanity. We never have a shared norms of humanity. So it is not something we want to include them into every thing, but it is not we do not need to have a lack of dehumanization with that. Okay, so we know that when we discuss on the title of the poem home is a particular word which gives us a possessive note always. The home is something that gives us a safe security, that is a shelter, that is a safe place for everybody. But this poem very quickly brings awareness to us that an alternative ഒരു പുതിയൊരു the understanding on what is a home for a section of people. And so the first line gives us pain in our heart, like nobody leaves home unless home is a place for shock. So this is make us critically think about, ponder on the reasons why someone would leave what is seems to be the safer place. So you just imagine the pitiable condition on which that make us leave our homeland to another land. So the notion of home, so it is something that make us to ponder over very high. So a person could move to another country. So we have these people, they are living for educational purpose. They are living for what will job purpose. So they are living for threat. Escaping a place where the life is threatened. However, safety is not synonymous with home, and one might be safe but have difficulty connecting and adapting to the new environment for an indefinite period of time. So this poem, lot many discussions are going on, that lot many discussions facilitated around the world. So and what is the definition we must give for a home, and what is the thing that truly makes a home home? So there are lot many discussions which is going on, what is a home. So this is giving us an idea about what Warsan Shire considers home. A home is a safer place or not. Okay, thank you. Have a great learning. Hope you have understood this. Thank you once again.